Play the music.
There's no music. There's no music for this.
There's always a still screen.
Music.
This is the still screen.
I was promised music if I stuck around.
No.
No music, no still screen. Well,
The violins, the dinner, the dancing. I know. We promised you many things.
well, clearly we are on the Meeple Syrup Aftershow.
This is garbage.
Thank you for tuning in, and we're going to be doing Designers Discuss Design. We're on episode 13.
Apparently the bad luck episode.
13 is definitely the technical difficulties extraordinaire, but don't
That's every
worry,
episode, man.
we are going to bake something very good with this Baker's Dozen and talk a little bit more about reviewers and designers and the relationship there and the things we can learn from each other. So we just filmed a great episode, and let's talk a little bit about what came to mind. I should also mention we have regular host Dylan, who has dropped in on the after show. Thanks, Dylan, for joining in. How much of the conversation did you hear?
I got the last little bit and basically saw Tiffany totally making altogether too much sense. Drool started coming out of my mouth. She totally blew me away, and I'm like, for the after show, we should just kind of have her talk forever.
Unfortunately, she left.
Wonderful. But anyway, I'm here, so I just got the aft end of the conversation, and I can only rhubarb for so long before I start listening to some other parts of this conversation. So, yes, I'm looking forward to being the fresh eyes on this, or fresh eyes, ears, mouth, nose, whatever on this conversation.
All right,
You're the ear, nose, throat guy of the show, is what you're saying.
Yes.
I'm the Don Cherry, just in case.
Wow, only Canadians have gotten that reference.
I'm not the Ron McLean.
Yeah.
There's
Just
no
before
way.
we
Does he have something to do with Alan Thicke, perhaps? That's about as far as I can go.
Nice.
No, it has nothing.
That reference would not land.
Alan Thicke was my chemistry teacher's roommate in university. That's my connection to Alan Thicke.
Proof
It's a small country.
All
It's
Canadians
a surprisingly
are
small
all
country.
other Canadians.
Yes, all
I
Canadians.
think that's just been proven here.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, let's jump on to topic somewhat. I do like the informal structure, but let's jump into the hot topic we were talking about, and Twitter deemed it Reviewergate.
Got it. This is the best sitcom dad ever.
So let's chat a little bit about Reviewergate, this ethic dilemma of negative reviews and positive reviews. Like, what do you guys think? Sam, how do you feel about negative reviews?
They originally bit me to the core, like really struck me quite hard. When I got the first one on a game, it was pretty tough. Jay and I were like, "What?" It was on your game. It was on Belfort. I know.
Like a full review or like a capsule review?
We wouldn't tell Mungo that he got a 1. Come on.
No, it was actually it wasn't even that. It was some guy who vindictively was going after every Tasty Minstrel game because they didn't replace the part for him on time or something ridiculous. He was on Amazon. He would won them on Amazon. He would won them on BGD. So I had to talk to Octavian to get it removed. But
removed?
Because it was malicious.
Censorship.
I said this once, I said it a million times.
It was malicious. It was malicious. If it wasn't malicious, I'd let it ride. And we have got 1s and 2s on other games that were definitely
bell curve on that Belfort rating.
Yeah,
that's the thing. 1s and 10s. There's no substance to 1s and personal opinion. I've said it before. There's no substance to 1s and 10s. They're political rankings, so far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Like your bell curve between the 2s and 9s. How many games are so bad that they really, really rank? 1 like the most horrible game in the universe.
Okay, well, I'll push back the other way. BGG, the majority of all ratings are between 6 and 8. Almost the default now. It has become just I scored a 6, 7, or an 8.
The majority of all games are a 6 to 8, though.
Well, yeah, that's right. The 1 to 5 on BGG's ranking is completely pointless. I mean, and you don't see that in almost any place for like movie rankings or whatnot. A 4-star, 5-star system is much more amenable. You know, a game is bad, or a game is okay, a game is good, a game is great, a game is my god. That's 5. You don't need, oh, it's bad, it's really bad, it's really, really, really bad. It killed my father, prepare to die bad. I mean, it's completely pointless. Once it's bad, who cares? I mean, you could be dead, or you could be dead with a bullet in your head, but you're dead either way. It's completely superfluous. But the existence of all those extra steps, just they're sitting there begging to be used, and I just don't understand the point of them.
Yeah, so, I prefer a 7-point system, but
I'm curious, Richard, with negative reviews, have you had any where someone said, "Go ahead, post that negative review," and then there was a backlash? Have you ever had kind of that negative
from the publisher or from the designer?
Yeah, from fans. Like say the publisher or the designer says, share it anyways, and then there was kind of a negative reaction.
I don't think I've ever really gotten a lot of negative reactions, and I think that is because I'm relatively civil. I'm not going to slam anything. I'll give constructive criticism,
right?
But I mean, I think if you give constructive criticism, you'll get it. You get what you give, And so, if I am going to jump up and down and rave and shout, hey, what do you know? Maybe that's what's going to get thrown back at me. Go figure. If you try to have, an intelligent, reasoned, measured discussion, you'll find as often as not. I mean, I know that's a hard thing to find in the internet, but I mean, for the most part, board games, as the board game enthusiast as a whole. It's miles above the "ain't it cool" talkback forums. Example. I mean, it's nothing like the dregs of that. Says, oh dear, I shouldn't stop. But so I've never really run into that. I mean, well, heck, I mean, Daryl, you and I had that. I mean, I got a review copy of Walled City from you, and and I thought it was a really sharp. It was one of the games. Jen and I played it first, and we thought, okay, yeah, this is really, really sharp, but it doesn't work for us as a 2-player game.
Totally.
And we talked about it, and I ultimately went out of my way because I suspected that played with more players, because it's an area control game. It really wants to have a lot more of that kind of random excitement, and I sought it out. And you knew what I was going to say before I talked about it. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that worked out well for everybody.
I think it's like for me, you gave positive reinforcement to the strengths. You pointed out its weaknesses. It gives people a realistic view of the game. And I mean, Tiffany mentioned that story of Kanban and someone buying that for their kid for a card game. I mean, I would rather the right person buy, a game I made because they have the right expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to be said about pointing out weaknesses or pointing out, I'm looking for this. Like you often say, I'm looking for a good 2-player experience because that's how I'm using the game. But then you'll point out, this is better for this crowd, or that, this game is similar to, game Y. And so I think that is then giving people a fair and real look at games. So I appreciated it.
There are plenty of negative reviews that I've seen where they said, your negative review made me want to buy this game.
Yes.
Where I would go in and I'd basically say, this is a soulless Euro with absolutely nothing but economy building and blah, 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 blah. And people are like, shit, I like that. That's great.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, because you know what you like, so then you can read between the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's just being honest about who the reviewer is and what they prefer in their audience. They as an audience, as a consumer of games, likes. And I think that everybody knows that Richard, you like 2-player games particularly, and so you're kind of the go-to guy when it comes to that end of the spectrum of number of players. And they know that if they want to look at the review for a mass party game like Cash and Guns 2nd edition, you may not be the first reviewer they go to, or they may not take your opinion they may not weigh it as heavily as somebody else, right? So that's also a thing. How many of you guys, it is 3:30 a.m. in Malta, how many of you guys actually rate your own games or rate games at all?
I was hoping you'd go there, Seth. Yes! Yeah! You had this conversation.
Well, who doesn't?
It's been a while. I haven't really lately.
I'm so scared. I'm scared right now because Sen scared me out of raiding the walled city.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Tell your story, Stan. I think this is meaningful stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the same
Because
as.
I wouldn't think it's a problem.
Some people do think it's a problem.
Yeah,
Some
people
people
think it's a very big problem.
Some people think it's a problem to
If
thumb your
you
own post.
secretly do it,
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, obviously, not secretly doing it is a good thing, but even so, it's that same thing that Dylan says, that ones and tens don't really matter, and this is why. Because as soon as I put a 10, somebody puts a 1, because there's a whole group of people that are basically 1 paladins. They go around for every 10 that's out there, they're going to put a 1 in there.
Rating
Because,
militant.
yeah, they're rating paladins. They basically feel that the 10s are lies and not really the truth. And you actually probably meant a 9, so I'm going to 1 it. And so there are people who are like that. There are people who will give you a 1.
That's a math error.
Which averages 5.5.
And you know what that does? 5.5. Who knows the magic of 5.5?
They should make it an 8.
But who knows the magic of 5.5 in the VGG
what's the
system?
magic 5.5?
Oh, you don't know?
This is
No?
this is the default.
Oh, so BGG is based on a Bayesian system of statistics.
Bayesian system. That's right.
Oh,
Yes.
Bayes.
So
Yeah.
it's the Bayesian
I was
system.
going to say, the Bayesian system, of course.
Yes,
Invented
so they
by Michael Bay.
So it's got lots of explosions. Just like the
Totally ruined Ninja
Well,
Turtles.
yeah, but the Abramsian system has lots of lens flares. So, anyways, what they do in the system is they preload it with a bunch of 5.5s.
Yeah.
So it's just average.
Behind the scenes.
Yes,
Yeah.
behind the scenes, it's preloaded with 5.5s until the end value of statistical entries into the system are a certain set value. I don't even remember what it was. But it's actually, there's a whole thread on it on BGG of how they do it. It's just that I don't think a lot of people actually understand it. So the rating that you're getting is not the true rating of the system. If you look at it, there's the rating, overall rating, there's the geek rating, and they're all different, and there's a reason why.
Yeah.
So when you have a 10 and somebody wins it, it actually doesn't do a lot statistically. But it looks like a lot statistically, and it feels very bad. Maybe to both ends. Maybe the one people think that it feels bad for somebody to put a 10. So I've stopped rating games after I think my first 2 games. I've stopped doing it for mine, and I stopped doing it for everybody. And sadly, it feels like I'm not allowed, which is wrong ethically.
Then just scrap that feeling and rate honestly.
Well, yeah,
You tell him, Josh.
Well, let me ask you this. Starting with Belfort.
Sure.
You would give it a 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, and in doing that, would you be saying that you find it to be outstanding, you always want to play it, and you expect that will never change?
Yes.
Because that is the definition of a 10.
And that's what I tell people.
Literally, the rest of your life, you will want to play Belfort.
Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Well, I would hope that's the end. And I would think, because at the end of the day, the numbers are really, as you say, it's all jiggery-pokery behind the scenes. I think it's actually would be more valuable for you than putting the number on. Actually, can you? I guess you have to put a number on. Is putting the comments. Where you say, "Hi, I was one of the co-designers of Belfort. Here's what I was trying to achieve, and here's why I enjoy playing the game." And I think that would be a very interesting voice amongst all the other interesting voices, because I think when anybody gets enough experience trying to use Board Game Geek as a tool for figuring out their next game, what I've always found, forget about reviews, forget about videos, forget about anything. Hit at the top of any game's page the comments section, and just start reading and go for wisdom of crowds.
Totally.
That's always going to get you. Yeah. Read the top ones. Read the bottom ones. The truth is going to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, but the ones that are boring. Yeah, it was decent. It was decent. It was okay.
Pick a side. Come on.
The thing is, you can get.
Extremist.
The weird thing is, you can get amazing reviews, terrible reviews, mediocre reviews, and non-reviews for every single game. It's a weird sort of. Same thing with hotels and TripAdvisor. You go and there's people that say it was the worst day of my life, or it was the best day of my life, and it's just hard to. I don't know. I guess maybe you can go with the majority of those opinions if there's a clear advantage from one side to the other, but it just
Well,
always
the problem
strange to me.
somebody posting it was the best of times, it was the worst of times is they might as well not even bother typing that up.
Right.
But if you look at the lower ones, a lot of them are just this is a piece of, or your soulless Eurocraft, whatever. Okay, you wasted my time. Why did I even bother reading that? But
Right.
occasionally you'll see somebody with a more thoughtful. Well, you know what? I really actually found that the in-game tended to drag because this was our experience. I'm like,
Sure.
okay, now that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's something I'll bear in the back of my mind when I download the PDF and read the rules. Is that something that I might see? And it's those little snippets that I think are going to be the most valuable. And I think as the developers of the games, you guys are going to have arguably, obviously biased little snippets, but still probably the most unique snippets anybody can have because you know the story behind the game. You know its soul. You know its heart. And you could talk about that in a way that nobody else can. And I think that's actually kind of cool. And it shows passion. It doesn't necessarily show that you're being a shill. It shows passion, heart, and love. And again, you put it out there, it comes back. And yeah, you'll get some assholes, but that's the internet.
Yes.
It's full of them.
Daryl's smiling.
I have a question for everyone.
Sure.
And the rule is we can't answer anyone that's been on the show tonight. But I'm curious, what reviewers do you turn to? So what reviewers are you listening to, watching? Are they maybe doing things in creative ways, or you find your tastes are similar? Who do you gravitate to? And it doesn't even have to be just video. But I'm going to throw it out there, and I'll put Sen on the hot spot to give everyone else more time to think. Sen, who are some reviewers?
Couples and Cardboard.
Yeah, they're nice. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like their reviews because they don't go into the rules. I can read rules myself, like 100% of them. I'm pretty literate. So.
That's funny. I love learning rules in videos, so that's like the opposite for me.
Oh really? Like I just don't want to spend. I don't like watching videos, to be completely honest, of game setup and unboxing and
where it's just like a run through.
What the?
No. See, I like gameplay videos. I love gameplay videos, and I love opinion. That's what I like. I want to hear your opinion up front, whether you liked it or not, what you thought of the game, what your experience was. What's that unique part of the game, of this review, that you bring that I can't get myself? I can read rules myself. I can set up the game myself. I can look at a million pictures online about how the game looks and the component quality and all that kind of stuff. I don't need you to do that for me. What I need you to do for me is give me that wisdom that you have that I don't have because I haven't played the game yet. That's what I want. So,
but Daryl would disagree, apparently.
Well, yeah, that's his opinion.
Well, I want to hear it.
So naturally, first of all, I'm a visual learner, and I love, so for instance, I love learning a game around a table with people. So video sometimes creates that experience for me, that the enthusiasm of the game description and that weaving of the mechanic and the theme, and someone when you're taught a game in a great way, it just puts you in the mood to then experience the game the way it's meant to be experienced. So that's why I enjoy some reviews where they explain the game and they start playing the game. They, will walk you through the whole thing or walk you through just the rules. That's some of the reasons why I like video reviews. But
if they could tell me when that was fast forwarded to, I would watch that.
I know, and I totally agree with you there, because I'm also, I don't have all the time in the world to do that. So there's times that I will turn to that, and there will be times that I'm looking for something completely different. Maybe it's funny, maybe it's cheeky, maybe it's creative. So that what about you, Josh? What are some other
nobody's naming names yet.
Right. Okay. There was I do have a name or two. There was a guy, I forget his name actually. Maybe somebody here will remember. Sen, he did like a 1-minute explanation of Belfort. Do you remember
that guy. Yeah.
Oh, he's great. Yeah. He was doing those for a while.
I thought that was the most concise, perfect explanation of the game. I would when I'm sitting down to teach that to people, I want to just press play so that they'll get the whole game in 1 minute and then get into the mechanisms of it. Because just from that, I feel like the game was, here's the whole game, here's how everything affects everything else, and now learn the mechanisms of the game. I thought that was beautiful. One reviewer that I really like on Board Game Geek, I forget his actual name. It's Ender.
Oh, Ender. Yeah, Ender was wonderful.
His pictorial reviews.
Oh, they're amazing.
gorgeous. He puts so much work into them. Like they're written. I kind of like written reviews more than video reviews because I guess I'm a
because you're hoity-toity.
I'm a textual learner, perhaps.
He's against that new technology.
Yeah.
Well, me too. I really learned from the written reviews. Oh, by the way, just in case you guys didn't know, Enders he's not from London. He's from Australia, but he lived in London for quite a while. He's a pastor here.
London, Ontario, Canada, for all you people out there.
Yes, who don't know that there's other Londons in the world. Ender and Jeff Temple, who's a good friend of mine, also in London. Jeff Temple did a lot of the writing for Ender's reviews, and he also reviewed some game. He doesn't do it as much anymore because he does more. Flying Dutchman. His reviews are amazing as well because he was the guy who was doing the word part of Ender's reviews. So Jeff did those, and he's an exceptional writer. And he's the kind of guy, again, that you'll notice that there are no negative reviews, and his stance on it is exactly the same. Richard, like, why would I waste my time writing something negative and wallowing in that negativity when I could write about something I actually enjoyed playing, right? So, anyways, so Flying Dutchman. If you're looking for some reviews, he doesn't do a lot anymore though. And Ender stopped doing. Well, he didn't stop them, but he hasn't done a lot lately. But anyway,
he's not as prolific as he used to be.
No, not at all.
I would love to see a reviewer that just specializes in only reviewing games that they hate and that are terrible and that are.
I'm telling you, it's gonna be Josh.
There'd be a huge audience.
Josh hate reviews. Josh hate reviews. Let's start it, man.
Problem is, I wouldn't want to make the designer feel bad. That's where it comes from.
No. Forget it. Josh hate reviews.
I do hate reviews.
Do you guys feel like being as we're all part of the industry in some way, shape, or form?
Sure.
Do we feel bad about bad mouthing some games, throwing some games under the bus?
Totally.
Yeah. Do we feel like we're burning some bridges if we did?
But some stuff is just not your taste. I mean, like you've seen me firsthand.
I have seen you.
People. I mean, like seriously, it's like, what's the theme? Nothing? Well, screw you too. Like, what's the point of me playing this game? And it's partly because I'm just a terrible person, but it's also
true. We all say that.
I need something to grab onto. Honestly, it's just a defense mechanism for the fact that my brain has trouble processing stuff that has no story behind it. So it's like, if it's just a bunch of math, it's going to slap into my head and just fall off like Teflon. But, if it's got some theme, I can actually glom onto something. So I'll sit there and I'll bear, bite that piece of leather and bear the pain of playing these themeless games. But I'll make noise about it, right? But I'll do that to the guys that who are good friends and know that I'm a terrible person. But really, if I'm gonna for example, if I'm gonna go to a review, I'm probably already targeting that game for something that I either want to play or purchase.
Sure. So
maybe I'm looking for something that's going to be more descriptive than not. Like,
right.
I hate to have a review where you're just kind of like 45 minutes of through the rules that you can read yourself, and then there's 5 minutes of actual reviewers. It's good at the end. That kind of sucks. But yeah, I have a taste that I am comfortable with myself. I know that I've got a specific taste, and a lot of reviewers aren't going to reflect that anyway. So what's the point of watching them in some cases?
Yeah,
it's really entertaining, like the Downtime Town dude who did Space Hulk. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we talk reviews and we never said the word Dice Tower?
Everyone just doesn't want to be obvious.
I never answered the question.
Here we go.
Richard.
Well, yes, if I were to talk about the people I watch, and I'll come to your specific question, obviously I think the people you have to talk about more than anybody else is Shut Up and Sit Down.
Yes.
They're gods. They are, they're articulate, they're witty, they are incisive and critical. I mean, they do more than reviews. They do critical examinations because they, in the middle of their Monty Python-esque skits, they are actively capturing the feel of the game, and that's what's so important. And they're one of the very few that do it. It's funny, I find myself disagreeing with them so often. I'm shocked, but I still keep watching anyway, even though I think they get it wrong. As often as they're right.
Well, I think they're entertaining more than they are informative, right? Well, no, not that they aren't informative, but they're equally as entertaining, or if you don't agree with them, at least they're entertaining, right?
Oh yeah, well they're definitely entertaining, but they're never wrong about using metaphor to truly capture the essence of what the game feels like. It just seems like they always kind of get stuck on some little procedural thing, and I'm like, why are you even saying that? You're entirely wrong. If you actually, and actually I've often gone on their forums and said, oh, by the way, guys, you missed this. I've kind of been a pest that way. Who else? Gray Elephant.
Tim.
Him. More and more, specifically, Tim and his wife Carmen playing games. I think that works very well. Another one is Miwi, a German guy who does run-throughs like me. But what he does a great job. He's like me without making mistakes, which is fantastic. But what I like about Tim and Carmen, what I don't like to see is a run-through where I'm literally just going to tell you procedurally, I made move X, then Y, then Z. I think it's very important to explain why you did it, because that's where the rubber hits the road. That's what a game is really all about. Right. And when Tim specifically, he's actually pretty good about saying, well, look, these are my cards, and I'm thinking about this and this and this and this, and that's really nice. I watch the Dice Tower for a couple of reasons, and specifically Tom. I watch most of Tom's videos. One, because he's one of the few guys who actually gets games covered sooner than I do. So often, if I want to know about the game, he's the first one out of the gate. So that's really useful. And while I often disagree with his opinions, I do respect him. He's played a lot of games. He's been doing this for 10 years, and even when he's way off base, I still think he has an interesting voice, even if he does tend towards the histrionics a little bit too much for my taste. And it's interesting you said you can look at pictures all day long, and that'll give you a sense. I think there is something to be said for just seeing the game set up, seeing a pair of human hands moving. You get a sense of scale, you get a sense of texture that you don't get in. So I get that out of Tom as well. So I'm always happy to watch, and then I'm happy to go and explain. Well, here's why you were wrong, Tom.
Well, I want to jump in on a couple. I mean, you mentioned shut up and sit down. I think there's an interesting thing going on, and I'm curious because they have been negative on some games. I've heard little grumbles from publishers about not wanting to send games because they're afraid they're going to, really nail them. So I mean, there's a curiosity there of like, when you use humor and yet sometimes the joke is to really, go negative.
Why are these publishers publishing games that they're not 100% confident with and think that a reviewer is going to think that it's good?
Yeah. Well,
maybe publishers shouldn't be afraid their game's going to get panned. A publisher should be confident in their game and say, this is a great game, and I want the reviewers to read it.
I think part of it is that they probably think that the shut up and sit down guys will make fun of them or do something negative just to do something negative. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. That could be. They're not that they are.
No.
But you can have that. That's what it can look like on the surface.
Yeah.
When in fact they are still being insightful. I mean, they do actually have interesting critiques. I mean, again, not always correct, but always interesting.
Yes.
Definitely. But I was just going to say they're so big now. I mean, they have tons. I mean, you saw what they're. They don't even have to bother with Kickstarter. They can just ask for money, and it just they get a lot. A negative review from them can be crushing, can be absolutely destroying. And never mind the fact they're in Europe like me, so a publisher probably had to spend through the nose just to get them that game in the first place.
An American publisher, anyways,
to get stuff shipped over to across the pond, and then to say, oh well, we just lost 800 units of sales out of the maybe 3,000 we were going to get in the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that didn't work out so well.
I wanted to ask you a question. Oh, sorry, Daryl, you need to go?
Well, no. I wanted to also touch on the Dice Tower as well.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I wanted to give a shout out for a certain review. If people are looking for an awesome negative review, I gotta give a shout out for the Great Snowball Battle. Has anyone seen that?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, if anyone says that Tom Vassell is too nice all the time, you got to watch that video. It is heartbreaking and hilarious at the same time. I think he was very honest about things that needed to change, and was very open about what his personal beefs were with the game. So personally, I more kind of lean to like Z's style of games, but I always appreciate Tom Vassell's videos. He's a great example of someone who I can tell if I'm going to like the game, even if he doesn't. Like he is built, you know what he's looking for, and you can read through his bias. So it is, again, someone that at least he's doing so many games, and he's trying to be honest about his opinion and pumping them out. So, but I also wanted to mention, what do we think about the fact that so many of the Dice Tower news videos are now being purchased? You know, even within that whole echelon, there's more and more reviewers that they're only reviewing things that they're getting paid to review.
Right. Often, I mean, Kickstarter previews are becoming real bread and butter for a lot of reviewers.
Oh, I'm sorry, because Dice Tower, I mean, they recently stopped doing that altogether. They've sworn off that gravy train.
Oh,
well,
really?
They did directly, but they have subsidiary people with the network.
Yeah.
Is that the case? Because, I mean, actually, I think it was just a week or two ago that Tom said, okay, officially, we're stopping completely. We have a few more that we had previously agreed to that we have to get through the system, but we're stopping that altogether, including, like you said, the ancillary guys. I mean, like, I know they have the group that focuses on game crafter stuff and Ryan Metzler occasionally, but I got the impression anyway that Tom was making an editorial decision. This is the direction of the Dice Tower. It's all just from now on commercial retail games.
That's awesome.
So those little kernels of ethics and morality and why you review games and where it all comes from and what your reasons are for panning or lionizing a game really started to weigh on them after a while, I guess. Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to ask. Oh, go ahead, Rahdo.
No, sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, how many reviewers do you think do this full time? That's all they do. Is review.
That's all they do?
Yeah.
Like professionally?
Yeah, like this is their job.
I could count them on one hand, I think. There's Tom.
Are you one of them? Is this your job?
There's me. Well,
I'm not saying that in
Full disclosure, I made a lot of very successful video games over 20 years, and I made a lot of money. The cost of living in Malta, so small, and so...
We're moving to Malta!
Malta is the Florida for English retirees. This is where they all come because,
It's got everything. Balkans.
It's got Game of Thrones sets? Game of Thrones sets?
Yes. But what was I going to say? You totally flummoxed me. Oh, yeah. So I wouldn't say I actually make a living at it. I'm lucky enough I got to retire early. And I do take funds from a Kickstarter campaign basically because to be able to retire this early, I can't afford to buy games. I just fundamentally can't afford to do it.
Right.
So I am feeding my hobby by doing these videos. So in that regard, you could consider me that I am a professional video game because I have no other job. Rodney Smith, that's true for him as well. Me, Tom, Rodney, and I think that's it. I think the shut up and sit down guys, I think they are still doing work for hire stuff in the video game industry, still doing articles for Kotaku and stuff like that. Again, I could be wrong, but I think they still have other supplemental income streams. So I think, you can count on one hand. Now maybe there's people in Germany who full-time do professional reviews of board games for the Sunday Examiner equivalent.
Like the journalist.
Because it's a whole different culture there.
Yeah.
But I've certainly Tiffany is a professional programmer and apparently a very good one, and so I think for the most part there are very few of us who actually at this point make it their full-time career. But I think that's going to change. I think there will be more, but never that many. It'll always just be a handful, I suspect.
I wonder what the ratio is between full-time game designers and full-time reviewers, and what the difference is.
That's a really good question, actually.
It's
I mean,
an interesting
What was the
thing.
question? What was the question?
Oh, how many people do full-time game design versus how many people are full-time reviewers of games?
yeah.
And I mean, Josh, out of the four of us here, Josh is the only one who's full-time doing game stuff. Art
Mhm.
is the
I'm
is the
transitioning.
main.
More and more days on design.
Yeah, I guess I'm transitioning, but I have 2 kids. There's no way that I'm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't give up free college education for my
The
kid.
problem is that Jay Cormier, like a millstone around your neck.
There's also this
dragging that guy.
certain Josh Capel who takes a third of my royalties for some of my games.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine there's very many designers, but there are. I mean, it seems like there are more and more designers/publishers. Like Michael Coe of Gameland Games. He does this full time now.
Speaking of three-way splits.
Yeah, speaking of three-way split, that's our three-way split. Jay, Josh, and I have a game coming out next year with Michael, so it's good. We're really happy with that choice because he's a very strong presence in Kickstarter. As long as Kickstarter is still doing well, then we should see some good returns from that.
It's an awesome game, but you will not like it, Richard, unless you have more players.
Oh, definitely not a 2-player game.
Yeah.
No.
Nope.
Well, you probably didn't show it to me then.
No. Oh, hey.
I saw a couple games when I met him at Essen, but yeah, they were 2-player games, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We didn't even try to make a 2-player variant for it. It's too social.
Yeah. I do have a question for you
Oh, wait.
specifically.
Actually, I did play a social game with him, didn't I?
Rock,
but I
paper,
probably couldn't
scissors?
say anything. We probably need to keep it on the down low at this point. I assume
It's public. It's public.
Let's see. Which game was it then?
Ours is Rock Paper Wizards. It's one where you throw hand signs at each other.
Oh no. Okay, I played a different one. Never mind.
Okay.
But I did play another social one.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, it was actually from. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go on.
That's okay.
For training children to join gangs, actually, it's what it's about.
And it's about time, I think. It's good to have more educational content.
Well, nowadays you've got to prep for so long just to get in.
Yes.
Get you ready.
Oh, Daryl knows all the gang signs.
I worked at a youth criminal jail. I know them all.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, before we go, we're gonna wrap up soon, but I do need to get this out before I do sign off. That thank you very much to Rose and Ross from Tartan Bruce Lee and Lion Rampant. They were in Bermuda, and they were thinking of me and Jay.
So
this is
sweet.
Tortuga, a little bit of rum cake.
Such a game.
Hey, but that's a clear T. That's not a J.
It's not a Tortuga. I know, Tortuga. Oh, Rahdo. Sorry, Richard. I wanted to ask you a question. Did you play Belfort 2-player?
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you should mention that. Belfort 2-player is my go-to example that I often, or not often, but I do occasionally use when I'm doing run-throughs about why didn't the designers just take a little bit more time to take 2-player into account. Specifically, I love what you guys did with the I guess you'd call it dummy player for the tracks. So there's actually a viable first, second, and third place.
Mm-hmm.
Solkin is. I mean, I wish you guys had been consulted on Solkin, which is an awesome, amazing game. But as a 2-player game, those tracks just become a simple, very binary, boring. Okay, well, I worked really, really hard to make it all the way up here to the top. Okay, well, and I'll just get 1 point in it, and yay, I get second place. And it's just, I love the fact that you guys did that little bit and it was so simple. Just at the beginning of the game, just slap a couple extra pieces down. It gives you another target, and it drives me nuts when other games just don't go that little extra mile.
It's funny because a lot of people actually don't like that variant, but whatever, we like it. So.
They're crazy.
I find it super, super tactical. There's some really nice tactical plays you can do with changing your turn position around, so that you then control the opposite colors, and then you can start lacing the areas with that color instead. So, anyways, I just wanted to know if you actually played the 2-player variant.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
cool.
And I thought it was well considered.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think the issue with 2-player games is that publishers are very interested in putting that 2 on the box. They really want that to be possible, even when the game was designed as a multiplayer. So a lot of the times it's after the game is signed that a designer or a team gets pressure to create a two-player variant for it, so that
Or doesn't even get asked and they do that for them.
What game is that, Zen? What game is that?
That can happen as well. But I think that's the reason that you see a lot of sort of weaker two-player variants that maybe weren't fully play-tested, maybe they weren't, maybe they're not as robust as the
exactly, or they're mechanically sound, but they just lack that zest that having that third participant made the game come alive. Yeah, I know. I can't blame publishers because there's a huge market there. I mean, you're leaving a lot of money on the table if you don't put that 2 on the box.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned Walled City earlier, it has a 2-player variant, and for me, Walled City is like a 3-rope tug of war. You have like a rope in each hand and one in your teeth, and they're all going in different directions, and you're trying to pull on all of them. But if it's one of the player, then you're just sort of pulling back and forth all 3 at the same time. So.
Well, you're using that thing as a fulcrum, in the 2-player, and I do think I said at the time it was a mechanically sound design. It worked, but it made 2-player Walled City much more clinical.
Yeah,
that's a good description of that.
Yeah, as opposed to and again, it was just missing that kind of juice that it didn't have jazz hands. Which suddenly happens as soon as you have 3 players all vying in all those different tracks that you have to keep track of at one point.
I swear that's going to be my next pro tip. My next board game designer's pro tip is add more jazz hands.
Yeah, in 2-player, it's easier to get what your opponent's going to do and return to what you're going to do. In 3-player, it's a bit more of a mystery. I think he'll do that. I think she'll do that. And then there's, like you said, there's more of this.
Yeah. And there's table politics and all of that stuff, which is a big part.
Yeah.
On the 2-player note, Josh, I don't know if it was public knowledge, your upcoming 2-player game last time you were on the show. Is that true?
Which upcoming 2-player game?
Broadsides.
Broadsides.
It's not been secret, but it hasn't really been officially announced at all. But it's
I thought it was. I saw it shouted out somewhere online. Where was it?
Probably by me.
By me. I mentioned it.
No, they talked about Merchant and Marauders.
Yeah.
Oh, Eric. Eric Martin probably did.
Eric Martin. He picked it up off my Facebook or something, and then just.
So spoilers. Tell Richard a little bit about it. He likes 2-player games.
Yeah, I just did a search for it on BGG, and apparently Battleship at one point was called Broadsides.
Yes, indeed it was.
Who knew?
I knew.
I imagine you probably did, yeah.
We were looking for
I just did the same search.
Broadsides is
I don't even know these people.
It's a 2-player game that's happening in the Merchants and Marauders world.
Oh wow, it's in the same universe.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's really cool.
Yeah, I pitched a game to Z-Man that actually initially was a cowboy game. It was called Gunfighters, and cowboys were you and another cowboy sort of trying to gun the other guy down. And the folks at Z-Man loved the mechanisms, loved the gameplay, loved everything about it, except they didn't love that you were trying to shoot somebody in the face. So they said, listen, we want to use it, and if you can make it into a pirate game, we'll shoehorn it into Merchants and Marauders, but it's got to be convincingly a pirate game. It can't just be, a recent game here. So I took it back, and I really worked on it for a while, changed some of the mechanisms to make it feel correct, and really rocks. I love it, and I can't wait for them to come out with it.
That's awesome.
It's really good.
Very excited. Very excited.
Shooting people in the face never sold a game, let me tell you. Never
sold a board.
Did.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, what was the? I mean, was it literally the violent content? I'm sure it wasn't that. Was it the Old West? They figure Old West is a trickier sell, or?
I don't think so. I mean, I know that they're working on at least one other Old West game right now.
I mean, I would say the granularity of the violence might have been an issue.
It is. You're one character trying to shoot and kill one other character. So
I mean, and this is Z-Man post Philosophia buyout. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I mean, yes, Zev would have had it. Zev did, Earth Reborn, which is completely violent.
Death Race. What is it? Death Race.
Yeah. But the cowboy game that they have coming out under the other line isn't it's like a flicking game.
Yeah.
So the violence is not as inherent in the system.
Right.
Yeah.
More abstracted out. less embodiment in an individual player.
Right. The violence is like you're not doing damage to the other player, really.
You're knocking them
so
down.
now you're actually trying to commit, murder on a mass scale by sinking an entire ship full.
I'm sorry, the naval military historian in me is screaming at the fact. Did you know that these people are being torn apart by oak splinters? Like, do not. Anyway.
It's true. That even
This
does
is how
happen.
surgeons learn how to heal complex wounds. Like, all that
It even does happen in the game.
Yes, there's an oak splinter card.
No, but if you do enough damage to a hull section, then it will hurt the crew section. But
Well, then it's educational, so that's okay.
It makes sense. This is good.
Yeah,
I'm
Yes,
for
the
it.
theme and mechanics are linked together.
yeah,
That's a game that I will not simply just walk away scoffing from. See, there you
There you
go.
go.
That's awesome.
yeah, and the incredible
Thumbs up.
Chris Williams is going to be illustrating it, so I'm very happy about that.
Beauty.
Yeah, Chris is very happy with all the work he's getting. I talked to him the other day.
Oh,
He's
yeah?
quite impressed with all the stuff that's coming through, and he's looking forward to that and the other game you have coming out with Rescue Rockets as well. So that's all on the art slate, as well as our Junkyard game and some other games. So that's cool. Anyways, we're about to wrap up here because we've been talking for another 45 minutes, and that's. I mean, it's super late. It must be like what?
It is 4:30 in the morning.
4:30 in the morning in Malta. How you like
Dude,
me now? That's pretty late.
This is old hat to me. I mean, you work in the video game industry long enough, you pull plenty of all-nighters.
Oh,
My
yeah,
personal
for sure.
record is not leaving the office for 4 days straight.
Really?
Whoa. And you
That's
still have a wife.
that's how we roll when we make videos.
I can't
You
touch
board
that.
game
I'm
developers, you're definitely lightweights. Trust me.
Sometimes I don't go into the office for 4 days straight.
Anyway, so
that's totally not true. But
you live in your office. Josh, you live in your office. You have an exercise bike in your office.
I've been in my office for years.
Yeah, so anyway, thanks very much, Richard, for sticking around with us for the much less professional second half of the show.
I like it better.
Yeah, it is fun. Thanks to everybody who's watching us live right now. We have 4 viewers, which is actually a rare occasion because we don't put
That's
up
like
this
a
link.
record.
So
We don't even advertise this.
no, because we don't advertise this part. So
They
it's
found us.
somehow they found us and are keeping on watching, which is totally fine. But we'll release the video on Friday as usual. So I don't actually know who our next guests are because, like Daryl,
Oh, let me look. Why
Daryl's
don't you
looked that up.
stall?
I'm going to stall by singing you songs. No,
Oh, don't do that.
no. I'm going to stall by
I've
asking
been there.
Richard another question.
Sure.
So, Richard, with reviews,
Yes.
I know you gave us the top 2 mistakes in writing rules. What is the number 1 best thing to do when writing rules, other than the top 2 rules not to do?
Well, shoot, that would just be the opposite of the things I said before.
Well, come on,
obviously.
no, do it again. Another one.
Listen, it
I
doesn't
mean,
matter
those
what
are the
answer.
2 big things.
You're only trying to kill time.
Contextualize the information. And so I mentioned 2 ways to do it. Either with the structure of your rule book, make sure you're not answering questions before the reader asks, because that's a waste of time. You're just giving them information that will just bog them down if you give them too much information up front. And contextualizing with theme, which nobody ever does. But those are just my go-to complaints. The things that just really tap my hide when I see them in rules. Some simple practical ones.
Sure.
Make good use of the last page of the manual. Don't.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, don't just put a bunch of copyright crap and some art. Put your goddamn turn structure right there so I can. And also, and people get this one wrong even more. Make good use of the gatefold, because that's the second most. I mean, if you have 2 pages of information that you need to get out, like a list of what all the cards are, that people are gonna have to look at a lot. Put them on the gatefold so I can just fold it open. I can fold it, and then I just have it. I don't have to keep on switching. Oh, was it on this page? Was it on this page? That kind of stuff. That's just like really simple things you can do just to make it physically more useful.
It's like in a board gamer's like
gate. Yeah, centerfolds. Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
I
what
figured
rule
it
books?
out.
Oh, good. But what rule books have you seen that you actually love? Name a few.
that I love. Well, that's going to have to be anything from Vlad Chvátil.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I just read. What did I just read from him? Oh, Tash Kalar.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
just the way that he writes the rules, or his team writes the rules, that and Space Alert were great. I see Andor back there, not a Vlada game, but another really good rule book that I enjoyed reading.
Andor is a really, really interesting experiment, and I got to assume it's the way they decided to construct that entire game, borrowing from video game tutorial methods, has got to be one of the reasons it got the Kenner Spiel.
Oh, yeah.
Just because anybody can sit down and play that game.
Have you seen the rules? Have you seen the rules for Crossmasters Arena?
Crossmaster Arena. No, I have not. I've had no interest in that game whatsoever. I mean, just because it's not my style of game.
Yeah, take a look at the rules though when you get a chance.
That's the really cutesy one. That's kind of a Final Fantasy Tactics kind of game, right? With the really cute anime characters.
Yeah,
okay.
Really awesome miniatures, but definitely take a look at the
that's right. Yes, I remember hearing about that. They break it down into a series of here's step 2, here's your next mission. Yeah, that's a smart way to go.
You actually play right on the rules. Which is very cool.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of good innovations in rules. My favorite thing about rule writing is the sidebars. Like use those margins, man. Use those margins.
The Aaliyah and the Ravensburger.
That classic. I can get out any Ravensburger game that I haven't played for years, and all I got to do is just read that executive summary on the side. That's brilliant.
That's why I love it. Because I play so many games and I teach so many games that I forget. Like, how many cards do you need? 7 or 8? I don't know, but if I look right there, I know, right? So exactly what you're saying about the back page, same thing.
Yeah. Also, in your setup section, a goddamn picture of the game setup, with call-outs of all the stuff. Don't just, not a paragraph of text telling you what to do stuff, and what type of deck which card does this come from? That's just another really common mistake you see goofed up on a lot. But yeah, I mean, probably more than anything else, I love Vlada's just because, again, he uses humor, and he's not afraid to say, oh, by the way, I've got this really one strange little fiddly mechanic here. It's really easy for you to get, but you'll never forget it because he ties it to the theme. Well, of course, it's because my pet gets sad and will run away from home, and that's why that rule works.
Yes.
Not because it's just some arbitrary rule, which is how it could have been written, and then everybody complain about how it's too fiddly.
Yeah.
My all-time favorite rule is that the animal disappears, and all of a sudden you get 2 meat.
Somehow disappears.
So our upcoming shows, I just want to mention, actually next week we're just filming Sten, Dylan, and I, and we're going to talk a little bit about Christmas wish lists.
Oh, right.
So that's why I couldn't remember who our guests were, because we don't have guests for the first time ever. And then the following week, we have Jay on Jay Cormier as our third host, and we have 2 publishers on, Michael Coe, who was already mentioned earlier, and also Frank DiLorenzo, who is a publisher and a designer. Frank has designed a few games like Homestretch and Masters of Venice and such. So we're going to talk to them about kind of the publisher's standpoint and the relationship between designers and publishers and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's the next 2 weeks of shows, so please check those out.
Cool.
Dylan, we have another guest that we want to announce, right?
Yeah, I should say, これからは金井誠司さんとインタビューしますけれど、連絡してやるので、まだ予定にしてないんですけれども、これからはもうすぐ金井誠司様とインタビューします。So we're going to be talking to Seiji Kanai. And I have no idea. Did the words
just like that, basically, the whole time?
Did the words appear below me when I was speaking? Did they?
No.
I was hoping
so we're going to work on the translation aspect.
So we're going to figure out how to do that, and then we'll speak with I'll speak with him first, and then we'll figure out how to do that.
Yeah,
right.
Wow. So
that would be so awesome to do the whole, Daryl asks the questions, you translate, he does it in Japanese and comes back. People who are watching, indicate how off you are. And
honestly, I thought that would work. I thought the words would just appear.
Google does own the internet. I don't know.
Plan
it should
B.
happen.
It's Plan B.
That would have to be a stretch goal on your first Kickstarter.
Yes.
Awesome. So on that note, I'm going to wrap up our show. Thank you so much, Richard, for sticking around for our after show and chatting with us. We really appreciate you staying up all hours, picking our brains and talking game design and game reviews and the whole industry, really. I think we tackled it all. We solved all of games problems, and we hope,
really?
that everyone out there will keep making some incredible games. We look forward to hopefully having you on a show sometime.
Yeah.
Design. And I really want to encourage play tests, encourage one another, try to learn from one another. So from that, we're signing off. Thank you. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, buddy.
Nice to meet you, man.
It was a good time.
See you later.
Still live.